Hi guys, Courtney here with American Trailhead. I'm here with Sarah from Hold My Guns. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us. If you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about Hold My Guns?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Courtney. So I'm Sarah Joy Albrecht, and I'm the founder and executive director of Hold My Guns. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we partner with FFLs across the nation to provide voluntary off-site firearm storage during times of crisis or personal need, like during deployment or if someone is moving to a new location so that they don't have to leave their firearms in their hotel or their car. So it helps to prevent suicide, accidental shootings, theft of firearms, and stolen firearms used in crimes in a way that is a solution that is non-legislative in nature. And that's really important so that we can help to preserve rights.
Now, when you talk about non-legislature in nature, what exactly does that mean?
So a lot of times those concerns that I mentioned, people try to solve them with things like red flag laws or laws that would criminalize someone if someone accidentally shot themselves with a firearm. And I'm not really here to comment on all of that today, but the point is that sometimes people handle them by creating more laws and more infringements on our rights. And what we're doing as a for gun owners by gun owners organization is that we're providing this option for gun owners who might be experiencing a time of crisis, but it helps them to take care of their private matters before they escalate to public ones where there might be outside intervention.
Okay, so I'm in law enforcement in Georgia, and being in law enforcement, we go out to calls of people in crisis pretty often. When we go out to a call, is that what you're referring to as in crisis, that if they're struggling, if they don't feel comfortable with us as law enforcement, they can go to you and turn over their guns and kind of like a consignment almost?
Yeah, so we do use the consignment and consignment return process as the backbone for how we handle the firearms at that FFL. And we also are able to, depending on availability for storage, store non-serialized critical parts such as a barrel or a firing pin. And you're talking about how this, wondering how can this be used in a law enforcement situation. And there are two that I can think of. First of all, police officers really, and other first responders, they see a lot of horrible things. And sometimes those things can really affect them. And there's a lot of stigma in those careers as well as in the military, that if a person talks about mental health and says, hey, it's the anniversary of my partner's death and I'm having a hard time, it's possible in some areas that could flag them for a mental health investigation and being pulled off duty to do desk job or something. And we hear about stories like that. And we understand the importance of people in high pressure situations needing to make sure that their mental health is okay. But what we want to do is provide a pathway for people in high-risk jobs and high-pressure jobs to be able to store their personal firearm when they're off duty and say, hey, I am going to take care of this hurt that I'm experiencing when we get over the hurdle of this terrible anniversary, and then they don't have to worry about an investigation. They know themselves, and if they choose to get extra help, they can, but it puts time and space between them and their personal firearm. Another way that this really works in a police scenario would be, let's say there was a call where a neighbor was concerned about an argument that seemed like there might be some domestic abuse going on. And maybe that law enforcement officer shows up and it looks like whatever it was is kind of quiet and there's not really much you can do in that situation, but you suspect something's off. And so it empowers police officers to be able to say, hey, like sometimes we get calls like this, but then a couple days later we get a call that someone has died or they've been injured, and we don't want that to happen to you. So if you have any firearms or other lethal means in the home, we want to be able to help you with that. If you have a firearm you can safely store it securely at our local gun shop. It's not affiliated with our police department, but it's something that this local service provides, no questions asked. And what that does is it helps to build a rapport between those individuals and law enforcement. And who knows, maybe, a week or so down the line, maybe that person who is the victim might reach out and say, I couldn't talk about it then, but yes, we are experiencing this and I need help. I need to escape from this situation. So, if it had escalated, you might have lost the opportunity to help that victim. So those are just two ways that law enforcement, might be interested in using the Hold My Gun service.
I think that's amazing. I don't think there's anything else out there like that, and it blows my mind that there aren't more services like that. So I'm so thankful that you're doing this, and Hold My Gun seems like an amazing program, and I know that I'll be using it. I'll be referring people whenever I go out on calls, or if I see someone that's experiencing a crisis, not just in law enforcement, but in personal life as well. I think that's a great thing. Also, whenever you talked about when military goes on deployment, that's an awesome feature as well, that they don't have to worry about leaving their guns at home and then let's say someone breaks into their house and steals their firearms.
Yes.
I think, can you go a little bit more into that? Is there a fee with this service, or how does Hold My Guns work with that?
Yes, so exactly. If someone is going on deployment, something that a lot of people don't realize is that because, again, of that, their life being on the line and the high pressure aspect of their job, a lot of times the family is left, they're at home and they want to support their loved one, but they also have some anxiety, and that can carry over sometimes to depression and other types of mental illness that they're transient mental illness, but they're still something that is acute in that moment. And so, for example, if that service member is deployed and they have teenagers at home who are struggling, they miss their parent, that they are at high risk for suicide. And so it's a opportunity for, it's like, hey, things are potentially difficult at home right now. I'm getting calls from my spouse saying the kids aren't doing really well. And I think we just need to take the firearms and safely secure them off-site just to make sure that no one has unauthorized access. And I started Hold My Guns actually because we lost an 18-year-old friend to suicide. So as a range safety officer, it was important for me to find a solution that worked for that household, that gun-owning household, understanding that it might not be the gun owner themselves who is in crisis, but someone who's in their household. And as far as fees go, we really do leave that up to that FFL to have a market price for their area. It's a professional service. They're not just throwing a firearm in a locker somewhere, like they are storing it behind the counter, and they're treating it with respect, knowing that it's someone's investment. And so average for our storage partner locations right now, it's between like maybe 20 and 25 a month, depending on what kind of firearm it is. And that's important too, because it actually creates a little bit of anonymity. Like if you go in and say, I'm in crisis, then, and someone gives them, free storage because they're in crisis, now they've disclosed some personal information. But if we just assume everyone is going on vacation or deployment or whatever, they don't have to ask those questions. So we encourage anyone who's, in the firearms space that wants to be helping people, always respect privacy and make sure that you're protecting their rights, because you wouldn't want someone to inadvertently say something that could keep them from filling out a 4473. And it's important, and I'm going to clarify that. Certainly if a person is unlawfully able to possess a firearm, they should not lie on that 4473. But sometimes there's some questions where a person is like, shoot, I might be experiencing a crisis. Am I still allowed to possess a firearm? And if they have talked about this with shop people, but they don't quite understand the instructions that say that you have to be adjudicated before a judge or a determining body to be, it's called mentally defective. It's kind of an archaic term, but there's a lot of confusion about that. And so what we want to do is make sure that that form is filled out accurately, and that someone's concerns with an inaccuracy might not be properly represented on the form. So that's a little bit in the weeds, but it is important with that in this space, that we treat it with a sense of understanding that it's regulated, and that we want to make sure that we protect the liability of all parties involved and make sure that everything is filled out accurately and above board.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I think this is an amazing program. Hold my guns, everyone. If you have not looked into it, you really need to. It is an amazing program for mental health, great for law enforcement. It's another great program for deployment and people in active military, and just anyone that needs a little bit of space and time to kind of clear their head and get themselves back together without feeling judged. And it's just a safe space for everyone. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome. Our goal is to bring people hope, and I am excited to be doing that. We love our community, so thank you for giving me this opportunity today to share this message with everyone.
You really are bringing hope to everyone. I just hope you know that, and we are so thankful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. See ya.